Hey, still Andrew here, guys. How you doing? Well, you made it so far, and I salute your persistence, and I promise there isn't that much more left to our DVD, so yeah, at least I hope you're enjoying the process. And in this chapter, we're going to start with the material function again, and what it is gradient mapping. Let's use an underscore. There you go, it's gradient mapping, and here's our material function. Let me just bring it over to here, and yeah, I should probably scale it to the recording window right here. And it's missing all the windows, so let's just bring them back. And yeah, there we are. And actually the setup for this baby is pretty simple, I'd say. We just need an input, actually a bunch of them, but let's just go with 2 for now. Function input, and this should be, do they have texture 2D? Yes, they do. Maybe we should use vector 4. Yeah, okay, let's use vector 4 for now and then see how it goes. And let's just call it color 1. Oh, that was color 2, but that's not so bad. We'll just copy paste, make it color 2, make this one color 1. And let's actually input some default values. And once again, let's check our use preview as default. And let's just blend between red and blue, for example. So this one's red, this one's green, and use preview as default. And at that point, all we need is a custom node, because we can technically create all of that using, you know, like more traditional UDK nodes, but I think that we've been really underusing the custom node. Oh, not underusing, but it's a nice experience, if you know what I mean. And you know what, before we go into editing this stuff, we should probably, adjust our inputs. So the first input name is color1, and these are actually the variables that we're going to be using inside the node. So that's why you have to name them properly. And output type, yeah, I think it's float3, but we'll see later on. So this one should be color2, and that's how you address them basically. So they're those vector 4 here. And you know what? We also need another one, which is going to be a grayscale. It's going to be our height map. So let's just scroll down to the number 2. And remember, we're starting to count from 0 because it's programming. Nah, it's not that complicated. Anyway, let me go into my asset browser, my textures, and just grab something that has a height map in the alpha. So yeah, let me just show you that there is one. It's actually a gradient map, not really a height map, because it's been adjusted. You see, I've done some minor very ugly painting. Yeah, anyway, just to illustrate the point. And now we can plug it in, and yeah, custom expression must return a value. We're not returning nothing because it's empty right now. So let's do something about it. What do you say? So what we need to do, and I mean, I know that I can't teach you guys the programming and how it works in just the few minutes that we have. So you'll just hopefully have to follow along and, you know, just grasp some general logics from it. You don't have to, learn all the syntaxes and why, you know, this function's called like that and there's a semicolon or whatever in the end. So let's just try to keep it simple. Let's create an output. Let's call it a float3 because vector 3 is technically a float3. It's just a different name. Let's just call it an output. That's it. We just create ourselves something to work with. And you put this thing at the end just because you have to, so that the compiler knows that, okay, this operation is over. And you remember how the compiler here told us that must return a value. We'll just let's make it return the output in the end. So technically we sort of created our framework, but we still don't specify what output is. So let's do just that. Let's specify what output is through a linear interpolate node, because that's what we actually want to do. I mean, technically right now, everything that we're doing could be replaced with a simple linear interpolate node where the height map is the height map is the mask, and for the colors we'll just blend them in there. But there's something else, because we're going to be using our alpha values as sort of the heights of where do we want our stuff. So for example, if the linear interpolate would blend linearly from 0 to 1, what if we want our red to start at, I don't know, 0.2, or to start blending at 0.2? What if we want our green to, to be just solid green, starting from 0.8 in brightness? How do we do that stuff? And yeah, that's actually not that hard. So let's get rolling with our linear interpolate. You prepare everything in advance. So basically you have you remember linear interpolate A, B, and mask. So for our A, we're just going to be using color 1, starting with a capital letter, don't forget. And for our B, we're going to be using color 2.RGB. And RGB is just well, you get it. I hope it's the color values that we have, just like here from the texture sample, we have our RGB and we don't take alpha into account. But for the actual alpha, what we want to do now, we want to grab our height map and we want to subtract the color. Let me just type it and then I will explain it, because that will probably make it easier and I won't have to type and think and talk at the same time, because it's kind of tough. And we just divide this thing by this thing and we subtract some stuff. Anyway, let's just see if it works first before I start explaining. Undeclared color 1, that's because it starts with a capital letter. Yeah. Apply color 2. It looks like something very, very bright because I think that I didn't adjust the alpha values in here, so they're both 1. So let's just go in here and make this one black. And we're getting something, but not quite there. Okay, what's this guy? It's 0 and 1. Okay, so let's check out our code again and see what went wrong. Oh yeah, totally my bad. I actually have to subtract the 1 from the 2. That should hopefully fix it. Yeah, so there you go. Now we actually have this thing working. And just to try it, let's just try and, for example, make the green start at 0.5. You see how it, gets more value to itself, like for the greens. And, we can just tweak it like that all the way to 0.1. So that's the point where we're having our green, and the transition area between red and green is yellow, obviously, but, red is at 0. So our green can occupy anything, after 0. So if you just put it back to 1, there you have it. We're coloring our stuff. We got this yellow going on. And let's just make it a bit complicated. You know what? Let's make it a 3 vector, a 3 color blending gradient mapping. So there you have it. And let's change the preview value to blue and set this to black. And we can still keep the alpha at 1, but now we have to adjust this one to be 0.5. And I mean, you can play around with it. Technically, you can mess up your values as much as you want. It's no big deal, but you're just going to get messed up results. That's the thing, that there is no protection, from inputting wrong numbers. So yeah, you should just keep track of that yourself, because otherwise it's just going to be an additional overhead for performance. And I mean, you probably just don't want that. Yeah, so before we go in here, what we have to do? We have to create another input. And let's just do that. And let's just cut our height map and make it a color 3. And right now it's immediately not working, but that's okay, because now we're going to make this one our height map. And we need our height map for calculations, obviously, so now it should work. But you see that there's something wrong, and that's because, yeah, we'll just have an additional vector here and the alpha value is messed up. But you know what, let's try it. Let's bring it back to 1, and I'm not even sure it's going to work properly, but let's just try and see. Oh no, you know what, what's the problem? I just put the blue channel in here. So there you go, it's at 0.5, just the way we left it. It would have been if we left it, exactly the way it was. So now we go back to our custom code. Oh god, I'm so sorry guys for confusing you if that's what I do with that explanation, but yeah, have to move on. So here we'll just have to use an if, that's just the way it goes, and we'll just have to grab our height map value and compare it to color 3 alpha. So that way we actually know where does our height map stand. And what that means is we'll basically have to figure out if we blend between the first two colors that we have or the last two, between red and green or between green and blue. So you see if it is lower than color 3 alpha, or I think it would make more sense if we just made it bigger than color 2 alpha, because otherwise it would be totally wrong, because it can be lower than color 3 alpha and be in the threshold of between color 1 and color 2. Our top value here, yeah, it's already updating, not very good, but basically our else is for cases when this is not true, when our height map is lower in value than the color 2 alpha, which means it's going to be in the threshold between color 1 and color 2. So I'm just pasting our stuff in here. But for this guy, it's actually for cases when it's true. So now we're going to blend in our color 2 and color 3 here. And we're just going to subtract our height map from the lowest sort of value, like 0.5. So for example, if our height map is 0.6, we subtract 0.5, we end up with 0.1. But now we're going to find out like how much to blend in this sort of span that we get. So we subtract color 3 alpha from color 2 alpha, and it's going to be 0.5. So now the question is, how much do you blend the two colors, the green and the blue? You just grab the 0.1 value that you'll get here, for example, and you divide it by, oh yeah, there you go. It actually updated and now it's working correctly. So yeah, we have our 0.1 in the span of 0.5, and this is the percentage that we're going to be getting. It's like 1/5 is the 20%. This is where we calculate it. And let's just click apply. Okay, and there you go. Now you can play around with your like make it 0.7. You see we got our blue sort of cutoff at that value, 0.6. Let's try 0.25, but it's totally gonna mess it up, I think. Or not, it's just too low, so it's not taken into account. You see, it's just 0.5. So 0.5, and you get it messed up then. But 0.49, I think is still messed up. Not really sure. Okay, let's make it a 0. Yeah, so something changes, but it's kind of hard to figure out what. But there we go, guys. We've just built a custom node with gradient mapping, and yeah, you did awesome if you followed along. But even if you didn't, and you're just gonna try it on your own, you're still awesome. But even if you don't do that either, you're still awesome just for being curious about that stuff. So yeah, now we're actually going to, I don't know, build a material from that stuff, just to show you like because this is not just about gradient mapping, but actually building a procedural material from a single texture. That's the idea. And yeah, moving along. An empty material for us to work with, and let's get rolling with creating something from that gradient mapping function that we created. So it's here. Oh yeah, and you see that the order is sort of messed up. And you can adjust that if you go into the material function here, and you can sort of set up the priority of the sorting. Let me just, yeah, sort priority. So I mean, you can just make it 1 for this guy, 2 for the green one, 3 for this guy. And you know what? It's not actually set up as an input, so let's fix that. We have our input. Let's call it height map. And there you have it, and let's call it just yeah, a scalar value, and use preview value as default. Okay, plug it in here, So I think we should be good. We should just set up the sort priority to 4, just to be sure. And yeah, apply our changes, close our material function for now. And we have our height map, and it's all in the pretty correct order. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab us a texture, but it's gonna be a different one than we used to preview stuff before. Why? Because this one has a specifically authored gradient / height map in the alpha channel that actually carries a lot of information that you need for your diffuse information. I mean, if you ever want to know more about it, there is a whole paper on my website called Diffuse Maps, yeah, which is about basically a study about that stuff. And technically, you can get away in a lot of cases with just using that kind of gradient map texture to then, just sort of sprinkling in colors at runtime and just get away with it. That's basically the idea of the concept. The colors is something that's nice and very useful, but sometimes we can live without them, I guess. So yeah, this is, you see that we have all kinds of noises, and we have the specifically painted highlights here and the ambient occlusion and everything. So yeah, let me just drag it in, and that's it. That's our height map. We plug it in here. Now we just need 3 colors. And for colors, and not just colors, but we need our alphas as well, so which is pretty important. So that's why let's just make him red, and well, yeah, let's just make him some random colors first. So the parameter name is color 1. Now duplicate this, whatever. Yeah, color 2, and let's make it a green. And you see the alpha values, we should probably adjust those as well. So this one is gonna be 0. This one is going to be, I don't know, let's make it 0.33 just for giggles. Back up. Yeah, I should probably turn those off. Sorry about that. So anyway, this one is going to be a bluish kind of color, but we'll make it pretty when we, what's bad? I actually changed the color before changing the parameter name, so now the number 2 here will probably be, no, still green, surprisingly. So anyway, color 3. And there we go, and the alpha value, let's make it all the way to 1 here. And then you just plug those in. And technically, hopefully, they should work. But something that happens with textures a lot, or not even with textures, but I don't know, kind of hard to describe. But let's just use our old component mask trick that we did back in the distance blending chapter. Plug it in, because I sort of have a feeling, and just see how that works. Okay, now, but the color did change for blue, it just didn't update the preview. So now when we plug in our green, there you go, we get a colorful rainbow up here. But anyway, let's try and actually work with something that would look a bit more realistic. And I don't know, let's just take some, subtle greenish color for our, like crevices and everything. Let's just pretend there's some moss accumulation or whatever. And UDK, we should probably make it pretty dark, somewhere around 0.5, I guess. 0.05, I'm sorry. And yeah, let's just click OK. But for something in the middle, let's take some desaturated, cyanish kind of color and make it pretty dark as well. Just to get, this illusion of gray, because you don't really want to go for completely gray because it's kind of boring. But something that is strongly desaturated but still has a hint of color would be nice. And then for blue, we can actually allow ourselves to go brighter. And let's grab some sort of a warm color that technically, hopefully, should make it feel like a rock of some sorts. So we got this blending going on. I don't know, let me just click OK here. And we really have to lower our brightnesses because right now it feels really blown out. Well, this actually works better, but you know what? Let's just go and make it even lower, which will make it almost completely black. But yeah, that's the price you gotta pay because this is actually 0.33. Let's just make it 0.5. And now we get more blacks in here because we sort of shifted our values, as you can see. But now, in some sort of manner, but you know what? Something that's really good at this stage is to plug in the normal map. So we'll be able to see what's going on a bit better. Okay, so our, sort of little scratches here look okay. But this one doesn't really cut it, maybe because the brightness is too low. Yeah, now it's a bit overblown, but let's just try and see what we can do with it. Maybe make it a bit more cyanish kind of color. Just click OK. And for that guy, let's add some more blues in there. 0.4 maybe. Oh, this looks like something at this point at least. Now we can try and move the lights. So you see that this red tone, okay, maybe it is just too red. Maybe we should try and desaturate it a bit. Well, yeah, return a bit of the saturation and make the moss even more saturated to be like the main source of color information in a way. Well, let's just leave it like that for now, because now we'll actually do a spec map from that stuff, and that way we'll get ourselves a complete material, basically. So what we want to have in a spec map is, let's just make it simple. You know what, let's just grab desaturation for now, and just desaturate it to be grayscale at first, because we don't want any colors from the diffuse, to bleed into the spec, because otherwise it's gonna end up looking pretty messy. And then let's just, well, not messy, but just the same colors, it's not that good. It makes it look plasticky in a way, and we don't have any plastic here. So yeah, let's just grab another color number, something that we're gonna use for spec, and then just go with it. Okay, let's make it 1 for now. And plug it, you know what, I think maybe we should multiply it by a color. That would make more sense. So let's just grab this. Don't change the color before we change the parameter name. Let's make it specular color. Keep it kind of blue because I think it works. And we could get another one and multiply it by the alpha channel if we want to adjust our intensity. And plug it into specular. So hey, now we have our specular highlights, and we could probably make it a bit brighter, I guess. And we might also make the color a bit more saturated and pronounced. So now we have something, to go along with the orangish that we're having here, and something for the specular power. Okay, now it's a tad too wide, obviously too wide, as in wide, yeah. But let's make it an 8, so our highlight would be a bit tighter. And now I'm just gonna move the light source around, and you see that at least it's working. Let's make it something like 5, and I don't know, maybe we should make it even more brighter. Oops, my bad, wrong button. Okay, so now you have your rocks that have some colors, that have, the badass normal map going on and everything, and the details and the textures painted in. We created with just 3 colors. And this is just a neat trick to be able to perform. And I mean, there's a lot more stuff to it. For example, what I did actually, I packed the height map, the gradient map into the blue channel of the normal map. I'm not really showing it to you guys right now because you can just download the package off my website and check it out on your own, but there's no educational element with it. There's just something going on upon normal map compression that I have no idea what it is. So I just have to, play around with it and just experiment. So yeah, there is nothing that it could technically teach you, But with that, you can work in further. I mean, you can do some procedural damage and stuff like that, but feel free to check everything out in the packages that I'm giving away on my website, and we'll probably be able to include them in the DVD as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little thing, guys, and I don't know, it still fascinates me how much you can do with shaders. And I'll see you guys in the next chapter, which is also gonna utilize gradient mapping a little bit. It's nice to be able to build up upon what you did in the previous chapter, and well, I hope you guys will enjoy it. See you later.